How do you keep reinventing yourself as an artist, a photographer, or a creative person when the world keeps changing the rules? In this episode of The Lead Creative, I speak to Jill Greenberg, a celebrated artist, photographer, and multifaceted creative person with 35 years of work spanning fine art, portraiture, and film. She's photographed cultural icons like Will Smith, Pharrell, Venus Williams, Zoe Saldana, LeBron James, Tilda Swinton, and many others. Her images have appeared on the covers of Time, Variety, and The Hollywood Reporter. And she's brought a distinctive visual style through her photography to shows like Netflix's Orange is the New Black, Hulu's Life and Beth, Modern Family, and others. We talk about how creative people can craft work that's truly their own, not by chasing trends, but by showing up, experimenting, and making things that feel honest.
I tried to set myself up into a situation where I wasn't gonna have to chase jobs because chasing jobs has become more unpleasant lately. So I'm really wanting to just make things for myself and make things that I don't have to worry about if they sell or if somebody likes them, which is really the ultimate freedom.
Jill shares how she's approached creative freedom, what it means to develop a recognizable style without being boxed in, and why making art for yourself might be the most important part of the process.
I think an ownable style is for the client who wants their campaign to stand out from other people's images, and in the sea of images, in the sea of, the bombardment of images and videos that you see on social media and digital platforms.
Welcome to The Lead Creative. Hit subscribe and share this episode with someone. It might help them build their craft. Welcome to The Lead Creative Podcast, where we talk to creative industry leaders, influencers, and brands. We discuss the strategies that influence brand thinking and shape industries. Thought leaders and heads of agencies let us in on some of their thinking and insights. I'm your host, Mongezi Mtati. Enjoy the show, and please share and subscribe. Jill, thanks so much for making the time to chat to us. I suppose I want to start here. When you started your career as an artist and photographer, the times were different. There wasn't social media, there weren't digital platforms. If you were starting today, how would you do it differently to what you did back then?
If I was starting now, I don't recommend people trying to be a commercial photographer right now. But if I was doing it, I think you would need to have a very strong style that's a very unique, strong style. But the thing with photography is it's not even just about the work. It's about you become the whole brand. And now with social media, the way you look, the way your lifestyle is, the way you dress, the way your face and your body are all relevant to people hiring you. I see a lot of young women photographers photographing themselves partially naked to get followers. I don't think that's great, but that's the way the world is. And I see a lot of some very, handsome men photographers getting jobs when they're not even good photographers. And that's the way it's been even before social media. So trying to make it as a photographer, it's not just about the work. It's always been about a million other things. You have to know marketing, you have to know design, you have to know, you have to feel the zeitgeist of what's going on, and then you have to be good at business. You have to, photography is expensive. Cameras are expensive, and all the little hard drives and all the computers and all the, and if you're doing analog, which some people are doing, film is incredibly expensive and to process. It's all very expensive. So you have to know how to balance it all, like to I want to do this job, we have to have a budget. We have to stick in the budget, or I want to try to work on, I'm putting money aside to get my portfolio together. You can only spend this much money and you can't go over, or else, it's a lot of business.
That said, though, in as much as it's different now, it's hard and easy in different ways compared to kind of when you started out, in the sense that today there are more channels for exposure to be seen when it wasn't the case back then. You're able to, make contact quicker with people now than you did back then. So I suppose it's that balance. How would you leverage the platforms though, without necessarily putting yourself, as you say, putting yourself forward rather than the work forward?
I just think, I see, there are some really great photographers and women photographers who are doing really unique stuff. I don't know if their work is even, they're doing commercial projects, or they're just doing work for themselves. I think if someone's going to make amazing, amazing, amazing work, then people will find it. There's just so much more stuff to sift through.
Yeah.
But when I come across some artists on Instagram and I'm like, oh, I already have 50 friends following this artist from like Albania. Like, I don't know how we find, you find people from wherever.
Yeah.
And the good people sort of, they do kind of rise to the top. They get it. They do eventually get attention if they're very, very good. Whether or not that it's just likes and followers, or if it translates to, if they want to be doing commercial work, or if they want to be doing art for galleries or private commissions.
Yeah.
So social media, of course, that's the amazing part of it, is that you can put things up and people will notice. People will eventually notice it. So I think that for the really, really talented people, their work can be noticed. But there's a lot of, for every, there's so many people who want to make it as a photographer, and they might not really have the talent or other things needed. Like in any career.
Yeah. So before this conversation, I spoke to creatives and people locally here in South Africa, some friends of mine, asking them actually whose work anywhere in the world they follow and really love. And quite a few of them mentioned you, and they mentioned your work, and they mentioned your End Times series as a result. And this is work that you produced 18 years ago in 2006. Why is it that you believe this work still evokes so much strong emotion to this day among people who follow your work?
I think it's the intensity of the emotion and the images. I think that when you photograph a child, they're being authentic. Although a lot of times kids are faking it because they just want to manipulate their parent, right? Like when kids are crying, it's not that they're in pain. They don't know how to use, they're 2-year-olds and they don't know how to use their words. So same thing, with animals, they're not acting, they're actually just being. And so when you see a picture of a distressed child, it makes you feel something. You're reminded about how you felt when you were a little person and you couldn't have what you wanted, and you remember that time that maybe you were lost or something, or you got in trouble from your parents or something worse than that. That was very upsetting. And I think that the combination of like my really dramatic lighting and these toddlers really crying off, like they're actually, they're not faking it, they're actually crying.
Yeah.
Made these pictures very, and just the way that I frame them, and the blue background with the spot behind it, it just somehow combined everything all into one powerful little package.
Yeah, there is though. I mean, there is a magic in that, that someone who looks at that work kind of um, sees and feels. I mean, you've described it a lot, of course, with like the emotion and the setting and how you created the work. But how do you capture that magic? Like, how do you bring it out in a piece of work? Do you know in the moment, or is it something that you realize afterwards that this is something that I was able to capture in that moment?
Well, it's sort of a combination, I think. Those were all shot on film, and at the time, in 2006, I guess I could have done them digitally, but I wasn't doing. It was 2005 was when I started, and then 2005 and 2006 are when I shot them, a lot of them in 2005, and then 2006 was when it came out. And then, so the first one I did was this little boy who I was actually thinking of doing a series of little girls, and I was photographing this, I think she was like 6 or 7 years old. And so this girl's little brother came to the shoot, and I said, oh, let's photograph him too. He's cute. He's a cute little boy. But he was wearing this really dirty t-shirt, so we took it off, and he started crying because he didn't want his t-shirt taken off. And then I remember seeing, when I got the film back from the lab, there was this picture, and he was just horrified, and he had his hand over his mouth. And I said, oh my God, the emotion is so intense. And this was right after George Bush had been re-inaugurated in January of 2006, January of 2005, sorry. January of 2005. And I said, I'm going to call this 4 more years, and I'm going to photograph a bunch of children crying about like what is happening with the American government and the American, the whole situation in America at the time. But I didn't really know until I got it back and saw it. But when you take pictures for a long time, you kind of know when you have it. I mean, again, with digital, you see when you have it right away. But with film, you still kind of know when you have it. But how do I do it? I don't know. I think it's just the way that I relate to my subjects, even if it's animals or if it's children. I somehow have this way of having like this sort of empathetic approach. I'm not saying I'm the most empathetic person in real life, but for whatever reason, I can feel. I don't know. I have this weird connection with the subject.
That instinct, that instinct and connection brings it to life. Yeah.
Yeah.
We often have these conversations called it debates, because I'm not an artist, I'm not a photographer, but we often have these debates where there's some work that crosses the line towards art, even though it's photography. There's some work that kind of doesn't. What makes the difference between work that does and doesn't? Like, what's that? Where's that line? What makes?
You just know it when you see it. You know it when you see it.
Yeah.
We all know it when we see it, right? I mean, like I would do an assignment for a magazine, and I'll take all these pictures, like 300 pictures or 3,000 pictures, depending, and there'd be this one sort of like outtake where somebody's doing some weird thing, and I'm like, that's art. That's the art one. And it might not be at all appropriate for the magazine, and usually it isn't. It's like an outtake, and it's like it rises to some other level of art. It's like it makes you feel something, and it makes you think something, and it's not all just like, happy person smiling. It's some other thing that gets you. And so you can't, if you know what you're looking for, you can try to do that. But in terms of what is it, I think it's more under the category of it when you see it. But like I said, it makes you think and feel. Yeah. It makes you question things. It gives you pause. It makes you be like, oh wait, I thought I was looking at something, but what is that? Is it something else? I don't know. That makes me think about this thing or like, even like if the lighting is very warm and it's like, oh, it reminds me of like my childhood at the beach, something,
Yeah.
it can trigger an association.
If you're enjoying The Lead Creative, please share this episode with your network and hit follow or subscribe. Enjoy the show. Over the past 30 years, I mean, you've reinvented yourself, you've reimagined your work. What does that, reimagination, reinvention look like to you from a creative perspective? Like, how is it? Because you do it. We see the work on the outside when it's been released, but there's something, of course, that changes in your process, that changes in your thinking. How do you reimagine your work and your process? How have you done it over the past 30 years?
I think it's more like I do something and I'm good at it, and then I'm like, I'm bored with this. I want to do something new. So I just keep playing. I just sort of like get out all the tools in the toolbox, and I just see like, I'm going to do. I'm going to try something new now, and I'm going to try different, or I'm going to try, or there's an interesting kind of lighting, or I'd be like, I had like lists of things that I wanted to try. Like I wanted to try colored light bounced off of, or white light bounced off of colored walls, or I wanted to try, certain kinds of light qualities, certain kind of framing, certain kind of, certain ideas that I want to explore. Now I'm experimenting more, going back to sort of drawing and painting, which was my original medium. Because photography, the reason that, I did so much Photoshop and things like that in the 90s was because I didn't really come to photography to document a situation in reality. I came to it just to make some cool picture that I liked, something sort of fun and surreal or made you think. So now I'm just like, there are certain things that drawings and paintings can do, of course, that photographs can't do. And so I'm exploring that now.
And how does that sense of, I guess, experimentation help you rethink how you create? Because again, there's the photography, there's the painting and art, and there's sculpture as well, right? So like all of these mediums kind of come together in your mind. How does that help? How does the one medium help you see another differently, or help you create differently for another medium, in the sense that you do as a person who's creating all the time?
I just think they all overlap. Like the way I draw is kind of like sculpturally. So I'm like thinking, I want to go back to doing some sculptures like I did in art school. And then I'm like, do I want to put some photographs, like project some photographs on some fabric and put it onto the sculptures? Like I'm figuring it all out. I'm just in my head trying to figure out what I want to do next.
How do you know when it's time to try something new, though, or something different, or move from one medium to another? As you
I just don't stop. I don't even stop. I have all these different things, and I have so many pictures that no one has seen. I have so many things that no one's seen, and sometimes people like them, and sometimes people don't like them, and I like to do them for myself. Like I like them. If they don't like them, too bad. I think making pictures, it has to be for myself, and it is for myself, and I think making pictures to either get hired or to sell them in galleries, that's different than making work. And after working for a very long time, I tried to set myself up into a situation where I wasn't gonna have to chase jobs. Yeah. Because chasing jobs has become more unpleasant lately. So I'm really wanting to just make things for myself, and make things that I don't have to worry about if they sell or if somebody likes them, or if, which is really the ultimate freedom, right? If you can just play around with new ideas and new techniques and concepts, and just see if you can come up with something new and exciting. Is really, it's a great challenge. It's fun.
So 2 questions, I think, on that. I think the first one is, I guess when you have that creative freedom, I suppose you create from a different place. You create from a place of loving to create rather than creating for necessity or to kind of feed yourself kind of thing. And that gives you better leeway. So it's almost as though that even though you need to create for necessity, that's the best place to create from. So I suppose the 2 questions are, firstly, how do you get to that point? And secondly, how do you, even when you aren't at that point where you're comfortable, call it that, for lack of a better word, when you aren't comfortable as yet, how do you create as though you are? How do you free yourself to create from a place of, I suppose, as though you're comfortable, even though you aren't? I guess, is there some balance to be struck there?
I don't know how to tell people to do that. I mean, I think that people are making art or making pictures or making something. They just have to do it all the time and just do it and not think and play and experiment and, look at everything. It goes into your brain, and then just like you then like sort of, so then when you draw something or when you take a picture, all the influences that you've seen and that inspired you will be in there. And maybe, sometimes you might end up making something that looks derivative. It might look too much like somebody else's work, but just, you can keep working, and you figure out how to make it your own. I mean, you just have to do it and try to do it when no one's looking, so that you can just play around and not have to worry, like, oh, someone's going to be like, what is that stupid thing you're making? You just do it on your own and play around. Because I think, art is just like childish playing, experimentation combined with craft and technique and like the facility with the tools. All together. And trying to synthesize it into something new.
Yeah.
Synthesize it into some sort of new thing where it comes together and it becomes magic. That's what you have to do.
Yeah. I think the thing that I keep getting is, do it for yourself and don't stop creating. Keep creating all the time, whether you are creating out of necessity or for a commission or whatever the case is. Keep creating. So it's almost like keep showing up for your work.
Yeah, and you don't, you could take time off a little bit, but you should be thinking about it, researching it, reading about what others did that are in the same field. You'll find other people would go through periods of on and off working, or other people would try things where they were frustrated as well. I mean, we're all humans. We all have our ups and downs. But, you don't have to always be making big piles of stuff, but you can be thinking about it. Like yesterday, I was sort of had a stomachache, and I was like, while I was like sitting in lying in bed with my little stomachache, I was like thinking about all these ways that I was going to maybe do some sculptures. Like, you just use your time to think, to just be, wait, maybe I should think about it that way. Because I wasn't really up for doing anything, but my brain was working. So it was fine.
Do you ever hit a creative wall, I suppose? Like, does that sort of thing ever happen to you? And how do you come out of it if it does?
I don't have a problem with that. I have a list. I have so many lists of ideas that I want to do that I could be 300 years old. I'm not going to run out of ideas.
Yeah.
I have too many ideas.
So speaking of, I guess, creating for yourself, some of your clients and some of your work has been described as you having this ownable style. Can you describe what that means, or how you would describe what an ownable style is?
I was thinking, a few I've done a few big jobs lately where they came to me and they said, "Oh, we need this campaign to have an ownable style." And I think even though I do many different techniques with my photography. I mean, the first client that did it hired me to do lifestyle photography of people in their homes, which people wouldn't necessarily think, oh, Jill's a lifestyle photographer, that does looks like natural light of families, in their house. But I think that even with my lifestyle work, the lifestyle photography, I think that because I'm not trying to look like, it didn't even occur to me to really try to look like other people's work. I just think that for whatever reason, my personality and my approach comes through in my work, and it looks different than other people's. So my lifestyle work looks different than other people's lifestyle work.
Yeah.
And then my studio work looks different than other people's studio work, just because it's partly because, all the things that were input into me before that work came out. I think the work that came in, the work that I studied, I guess I studied a lot of drawing and painting, and I look at painters and I look at color and I look at everything. The things that I respond to are like colored light. I just look at light and graphic design and form and bodies and everything. So the things that influence me are different than the things that influence other people. So my work has a very specific feel to it, even if there's a bunch of different techniques that you're looking at. Is it the crying babies, which again we're almost 20 years old, or is it colored light, or is it black and white, moody, or silhouette lighting, or is it projections, or is it a bunch of different things that I do. I just have to sort of go all in, and I don't try to be like bland commercial.
Mm-hmm. Can an artist, you've managed to do it, but can an artist have an ownable style without necessarily being boxed into whatever ownable style they have?
Well, that's what I'm trying to do.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. I don't know. An ownable style, maybe some of my, I don't know what ownable style really means. Is it just one? I think an ownable style is for the client who wants their campaign to stand out from other people's images, and in the sea of images, in the sea of, the bombardment of images and videos that you see on social media and in digital platforms. I think it's harder than ever to stand out. And I think because for the past while, there was a lot of this DIY, lo-fi, low budget aesthetic, everything started to look, there was no production value. So things really could get lost in that sea of everything looking very
sameness. Yeah.
Everything looking the same, everything looking very low budget. Because, but now I think the ownable style, I think that there might be a little bit, people might be coming back to thinking like we actually needed to look a little bit polished, a little bit like somebody cared, a little bit like some production value went into making this thing. And while we're doing that, have it be in a style that can be eye-catching or is different and isn't like everybody else's. Even if there's maybe a trend to using colored light, or there's a trend to using making everything sort of brownish orange or warm, vintagey looking, or a trend to, some other trend, whatever that would be. But to try to have it be different, I think it can set you apart. And like I said, I'm not really pursuing work that much, but I'm happy to work for big jobs when they come along, when they really just, then they can be nice to you on set. Sometimes those clients are like, because there's so many photographers and there's so much race to the bottom for budgets and things, I don't really want to take part in that race to the bottom. I'm not like, oh no, I'll do it for the cheapest amount. Like, no. That's not really what you want to do after 35 years of working.
This is true.
So, but there are, thankfully there are jobs here and there that can treat you as if you have value. And the value that I have is that my work doesn't look like other people's work and all the different permutations of my style. And that, I can do a ton of work in one day because I've been doing it for so long.
Yeah. If you're enjoying The Lead Creative, please share this episode with your network and hit follow or subscribe. Enjoy the show. And looking ahead now, it's as to like where you are now and where you're going in terms of the work that you're doing. Again, I mean, you mentioned that you're doing a lot more, drawing a lot more art, a lot more sculpture now. Are you seeing, is it because of artistic freedom that you're doing that, or are you seeing more growth and demand for that kind of work from you?
Well, the word demand, I don't know. I don't know what demand is. No, it's for me to do it because that's what I want to do.
Yeah.
There's no demand for it. No one's saying, Jill, I need you to make a painting, so I'm going to buy it.
Yeah, for sure.
It's more like, I'm trying to figure out a financial situation where I don't have to, spend all my time working in the commercial photography field, which is mostly like at this point, doing a lot of estimates and bids and treatments and, not getting it's the lifestyle is really hard.
Yeah.
And if there's a way that I can, instead of spending my time going in circles, spending my time making work for myself, if I can figure out a way to afford to do that, then that's what I'm doing. I'm not doing it for a market. I'm doing it for myself.
So for a creative person who is out there still having to almost chase the jobs out of necessity, having to bid and having to, get these, I suppose, gigs and briefs from brands or whoever else, what would your thoughts be or your advice be to them in terms of how they find a way out of this red race, out of this cycle of chasing the next job?
Either you're doing it or you're not. I think you're doing it or you're not. And it's been really hard because I kind of was just like, I'm not doing this anymore. But then a couple jobs came in and they were, and then they just they torture you. They put you on, they don't tell you, they make you rearrange your whole schedule. You can't make any plans, I mean, I did that for a long time and I was at peace with it. I could never make any plans. Couldn't book family vacations. I couldn't do anything like that because you were always like, oh, the shoot's moving here. Oh, the shoot's moving there. Oh, can you do this other thing in LA like in 2 days? Oh, can you go there? But now there is no way. Either if you want to do commercial photography, you are at their whim. Yeah. There's an end, and because there are so many photographers and then alternatives to photography, it's just going to get worse and worse. Yeah.
There's this other bit of, I guess, complexity or difficulty that exists, and you touched on it a bit in terms of just the style that you've crafted over time and how how you built your career and how unique your work was and how ownable that was, when in many instances quite a lot of photographers and artists who work in various spaces are almost collaborated with to create something that almost copies something else or that looks like something else that exists, right? It's like, I've seen this kind of work and I want my campaign to look like that work, or I want my cover to look like that cover, or whatever the case is. How does that person in that difficult situation craft their own style? Because everybody almost copies everybody else, and the work that you get, the projects that you get, tend to want to copy other things that are out in the market. How does that person craft their own style?
Well, that's two different questions, kind of. It's like, how do they craft their own style, or how do they do the job that the client is hiring them for?
Yeah.
If the client is going to hire them and say that they want it to look like that photo,
yeah,
then the photographer can either say yes or no. And most of the times they're going to say yes. They can try to have a conversation with their client saying, it would be kind of not that cool to just completely copy that photo. But nobody cares. Nobody cares. We know that nobody cares. The ad agencies don't care.
That's sad, though.
It is sad, but the corporations never cared about the artists. No. I've had people say to my face, "Oh, if you don't let us license one of those monkeys for that campaign, we'll just hire someone else to copy it." They said it to my face 25 years ago. Nobody cares.
Yeah.
It's a cutthroat industry. You know that. They used to Xerox your portfolio. Now they just, put your portfolio in comps and tell somebody else to take the picture. Nobody cares.
Yeah. So how does an artist who's stuck in that red race constantly reinvent themselves and stand out? Is there a way?
How? Just by doing it. You just have to. But then it's the balance between, I guess if you have a style that everyone likes for whatever, it's in demand, people are calling you to do a campaign with this style. I think, so anyway, you do it until people don't want it anymore, and then you try to do something new. But it's hard. People don't always want to see you do something new. For the longest time, I would say, oh, I'd like to, 20 years ago or so, I'd have a meeting at a magazine and I'd say, oh, it'd be fun to work for your magazine. They're like, well, we don't need photos like those. And I'm like, but have you seen the entire rest of my portfolio that is also, environmental portraiture or this or that or the next thing? It's hard because there's so many photographers. A photographer said this to me one time. Because there's so many photographers, if you're the photographer that photographs the frozen peas, and then one time there's a frozen pea job, we're going to hire you for those frozen peas. But then there's a job with the frozen carrots. They're going to hire the frozen carrot specialist. There are so many photographers that they can do that. They can say, well, for this job, we need someone who can do pictures like that, women looking up with colored light. But then maybe there's a picture where it's like men looking down in black and in blue and green light. Oh, Jill doesn't do that. Jill does that. Let's get the person who specializes in that. It's just
to kind of box you into a space.
The commercial photo market it's crazy. And it's pretty difficult to navigate.
So Jill, we ask our guests to pass the mic to our next guest by leaving a question about their thoughts on their industry, creativity, or life. And one of our previous guests was the group CEO of the Brave Group. His name is Musa Kalenga. And the question he left was, what do you deeply believe that you are often in disagreement with many people about? What is that one thing that you deeply believe that most people don't agree with you on?
That most people don't agree with me on. The first thing that popped into my head was like something kind of stupid in a way. It's very granular about production. It's not, I feel like that's a big question that I should talk about something big and philosophical, but that's too hard right now. So I would just say sometimes sometimes I'll be doing a shoot for an advertising client, and I believe that the person in the picture, like if you're photographing a model, or it's an ad for some product that you've cast a bunch of models, you've cast a bunch of humans to be in your ad. When I have a big problem with the fact that, like, say the budget's like X, and then they say like, oh, well, we can get models for like $700 or $1,500. And I'm like, the model is the thing that's in the photo or the commercial. So like, for you to try to get the cheapest possible model that will maybe do it, that it might be okay, decent, okay enough, that's not the right thinking. I'm not saying you should hire someone and pay them $25,000 to be in your campaign, although those models are great. I've worked with some of them and they're amazing. But to try to get the cheapest model, it makes no sense, because it's the person who's in your ad. Yeah. So just instead of, this is back in the day of media buys, and I'm sure there's still media buys. But anyway, print media buys, where it's like print media buy, like one page is $30,000 or $100,000, which I'm sure those rates are not the same. But instead of one insertion in one publication, you get a better model who elevates the entire thing. And also, you're not going to get like three amazing photos. You get like 3,000 amazing photos, because they're a professional. They look great from every angle, and they know how to turn it on and all that kind of stuff. They know how to move and be real. So the thing that came to my mind was, again, like hiring a good model, not cheaping out on the talent, on the person who's in the picture.
That makes perfect sense. And I guess, and I guess that applies to talent as well. I suppose that applies to everything else in the work. Like, if you want to get quality outputs, you need to put all the best people on the job, I suppose.
Exactly. So, so like this job that I was recently up for, where they hired a cost consultant, and the other person underbid me by like a huge amount of money. And I was like, enjoy that photographer. Not going to be able to do what they wanted the ad campaign to be. If they want to save money, they can save money, but you're going to end up with shit. Yeah. And just the same thing with, like, if you're not going to hire the good models to be in it, who they need to have, it's all the talent that needs to be in it. So the photographer is obviously important, the director is important, but the model is also very important. You can't spend all the money on the photographer and no money on the model. You can't spend all the money on the model and no money on the photographer, although that might work slightly better. But they both matter. Yeah.
Now, Jill, it's your turn to pass the mic to our next guest by leaving them a question. So what question would you like to leave for our next guest on their creative process, thoughts on creativity, life, or their industry for that matter?
Well, we don't know who it is.
No, we don't know who it is yet.
I don't know. I would say, what aspects do you still love about your work, and what aspects make you want to quit every time they get to be too hard?
Sure.
Is that a good question?
That's an interesting question. I'm not sure that many people would want to admit the latter part of the question. But very, very interesting question. Jill, thank you so much for making the time. We're such huge fans of your work, and we'll keep following whatever you're doing. I've been following the recent exhibition, I think, that you had, where you were celebrating other women as well as part of it. Mm-hmm. And of course, all the dancing on Instagram, always good.
You like
always good.
I don't know if I look very silly, but I have fun doing it.
No, you do. No, I think keep doing it. Yeah, thank you so much for making time to have this conversation.
Okay, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for listening to The Lead Creative. Did you get one insight that's worth sharing from this episode? Please share it with your network or your friends. Pop me some of your ideas and innovative finds on Twitter on @Mongezi. This podcast is available on Spotify, Stitcher, Apple, Google, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. You can also find me on mongezi.com.